Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Delisle from the Kahnawà Environment Protection Office. I'm the Environmental Projects Coordinator for Terrestrial Habitats. So my work is on of our seed projects, trees, restoration work, and drone work. I also coordinate our species at risk programs and invasive species programs. So I'm just going to be going into a few different topics. For some of those people who were here last year and saw my presentation, this is going to be an update on a lot of programs. So I'll go over some of these things again and tell you where we're at this year and for next year. I'm going to be talking about our Emerald Ash Borer program, our Kipo Seed Vault, and our Butternut and Black Ash project. I think most people are familiar, but just briefly, the Kahnawà Environment Protection Office is a branch of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawà, with the goal of fighting to protect and better our environment. Kipo was originally more involved in food sovereignty efforts and seed saving, but there's so many other groups in the community and around here which are doing similar work that we decided to let them take the reins a bit more and move more into the environmental protection role. So we protect wildlife, we do habitat studies, restoration and enhancement, we look at contaminated sites, monitoring projects, climate change, and environmental education. We work in both Kahnawà and Joworodu, and my work, as I said, focuses on the terrestrial part with the plants and the seeds. So just a brief overview of the Emerald Ash Borer and the Black Ash status. The Emerald Ash Borer is, of course, the invasive beetle that's been in Canada for a number of years now. It first came in Detroit through lumber shipments. It has incredibly devastating effect on the native ash trees. Red ash and black ash are the primary ones in Kahnawà. And ever since we first detected it in around 2017, it has been making its way through the community and killing all of our ash trees. Black ash, of course, is the important basket-making ash. And we came up with a couple of things for this. First was the Black Ash Management Plan, which is how we were going to respond to the invasive beetle, and that included doing a survey of the ash in the community, doing a black ash inventory, and we completed that in 2018. So we found that there was about 3,000 black ash in the community. And an estimated over 100,000 red/green ash in the community. So this makes up a huge part of Kahnawà's forest. And I don't know if you drive down OCR now, you see all the dead trees, or the new developments area. It's just making huge changes in our forest. So we've been treating a small amount of trees, 70 trees in parks and in the big fence with triazine, which is a natural insecticide, which is keeping them alive. So hopefully we'll have these black ash in the future so someone could make baskets with them. But at this point, nearly every untreated ash is either dead or showing signs of the emerald ash borer. It's just been completely devastating for them. But we've been also doing things to try and salvage it. We've been saving seeds from black ash trees the past few years, and we've been working with the National Tree Seed Center in Fredericton. So we have a selection of Kahnawà's tree seeds in the National Tree Seed Center and in Kahnawà. So when eventually the beetle passes through the community and dies off, we can request those seeds back and we'll be able to replant with our native trees, which have that unique genetic diversity of Kahnawà. So this is an image of the Black Ash Survey, which was carried out in 2017. I think Kenneth did some of that work. He could tell you that it was a lot of marching through the forest to find all these spots. But you can see where black ash grows. It grows in really wet areas, so there's a lot along the streams and creeks. There's also a lot in the big fence and the north wall. But these areas aren't all on common land. On common land, we can protect these trees a lot more, but a lot of them are also on private. So you have a combination of the beetle damaging trees, but also people wanting to develop for homes, of course. And though most of the trees are already dead, you might have some that would have a bit of genetic resilience. So it's challenging to manage that on private lands. And we're going to be updating this inventory. It's like it was done in 2017 when the beetle was just sort of infecting the community, but now where are we at in 2025? How many trees are still alive, and what did our forests look like? So this is going to be our mortality checks. We started this last summer and we're going to be continuing it this next year. We did these original surveys on foot, going out and finding groups of trees and marking them manually with a GPS. So we have a really precise idea of where these trees are, but it's really labor intensive and time intensive for the surveyors. So this year we're going to be using remote sensing. So remote sensing would be either be using like a drone or satellite imagery, really up to date, so you can just take a snapshot of the forest at a single time and you can see exactly what's going on there. So one area I'm going to be using as an example here is in the new developments, lot 106. This area had some concentrations of black ash. Every yellow dot is a tree, and a purple area on there is like a stand of black ash. Red-green ash is really dominant in this forest too, but we didn't survey every tree for that, but you can assume that most of the trees, or at least half of them in the green areas, are red or green ash. So how do we do the remote sensing? Kipo purchased a drone last year. This is called a Mavic 3M drone. This drone is actually designed for agriculture. It has a multi-spectral sensor on it. So that image up there you can see is a farm field. Anything in really red color is a plant that's growing well. You can see on the left-hand side here, it gets a little bit of yellow in there. You can see these plants aren't doing as well. So this is used in agriculture to make things like prescription maps, where you're going to put your fertilizer, where plants aren't getting enough water, so the farmers can go and treat it specifically. But we could use this for assessing forest health. If we see some of these trees, they'll all look dead, but then we take this multispectral camera, we could see that some of them maybe are still a little bit alive. Maybe they have a little more resilience to the beetle. And we've also can make 3D models with this. So these drones, you can pre-program routes. You can tell the drone what you want to look at, and it'll fly over the area on its own. I don't even have to do anything, I'm so lazy. And it'll take hundreds of pictures, and then I could just throw it in the program. It'll make it into a 3D thing by combining all the pictures. So I'm going to walk through that and show you how we use that for this Emerald Dashboard program. So this is called a sparse point cloud. All those little blue squares there are points where the drone took a picture and at what angle. So on this route, it flew back and forth, taking pictures as it went. And when I put it into the program, it generates what's called the sparse point cloud. That's this under it. It looks at what's the common things in each picture and says, okay, this ties to the other picture, this one ties to this one. So we have thousands of points that are connected, and it comes up with a unified image. And then I can use that to create an orthomosaic. So an orthomosaic is just basically all the drone images combined to one. And this is the orthomosaic of the Lot 106 new developments area. We also fill in a lot of gaps in that little sparse model. It didn't look very good. And it'll fill it in and make it more cohesive, so it actually looks like an image. This is accurate up to 1 to 5 centimeters, and we could reduce that to 0.5 centimeters with equipment. What could we use this for? Since we have this highly detailed image, it's essentially a snapshot of the forest at any time. The beetle will kill trees each year, or if a new species comes and starts killing trees, we can really get that in the moment image. And you can see really here, this is the 3D model and why we need to take so many images. Since it takes images at every single angle, we can explore this and zoom down and see different angles of what's going on instead of just that top-down view. We could make measurements with this. Say if there was a pile of soil there on a construction site, we can measure how much is in that soil, and then when they take more out of that soil pile, we can see that. We can measure slopes for erosion and track shorelines, or in this case, assess forest health. And so this is a zoomed up image of that ortho imagery. And you could see before in that image I had shown, it was all just green, but now you can clearly see which trees are dead. So these would likely be all red, green ash, and it's devastating. That looks like about what, maybe 40% of the trees in the forest are just gone. And what's going to be happening afterwards? What's going to be growing in the place of these trees? Is it going to be a native species or something invasive? Adding that into our GIS software, our mapping software, lets me mark out all of the dead ash. And so you can really see every blue dot there is a dead tree I've marked in the image. And you can see the distribution of the forest. So I've got to do most of this all from my office using the drone and on a computer, but we're going to be having summer students next year, and they did some of it this year, going field verify some of these. So going out to all these points where I said, okay, this is a dead ash tree, and just making sure, yeah, this is working for us. So we're hoping to do this for all of the areas in the community where we did the survey in 2017, and then we can have an idea of how much is dead. But these field verifications are also going to give us more information on, did anything survive? It's really easy to pick out dead trees in this, but what is a live ash tree look like in this image? I don't know, but maybe there's a few that are surviving and hanging on there, and that sort of genetic information would be really useful for us. So Kipo established a seed vault a few years ago now, I mentioned before, to preserve the ash seeds. We've been going out in the fall when the seeds are ready and collecting them. So black ash specifically only seeds every 5 to 7 years. So we had a good seed crop in 2019, and we haven't had a really good seed crop since then. So we're really looking for a bumper year when all of the trees have seeds. So we did really good that first year, but since then it's only been the red trees, which are much more common. But our seeds are stored now, and we're expanding this program not just to species that are threatened, but to species that will become threatened in the future. We don't know what's going to happen with climate change, whether we have a species that's doing okay now, but maybe 5 years from now, it's disappeared. And as I was saying, a small percentage of trees will have genetic resistance to invasives. So the emerald ash borer, they call it lingering ash. Some ash trees will just hang in there, they'll get infected with beetle, but they'll survive. And so that's what we've been really working on trying to find. We're working with a Black Ash Alliance network of researchers across Canada, and we're going to be doing a lot of work to try and preserve from those specific trees. So when they are in seed, we know where to get them, and we could breed them for resilience. So we're establishing monitoring plots this year, and we're also expanding with this 2024-2026 butternut and black ash project, which I'll talk about now. So this is an expansion of the seed bank work we've been doing. It's to preserve the seeds and genetic material from black ash, butternut, and several other, which I've called high value species. These could be either medicinal species or species that are at risk around Montreal or in Quebec. So I have Jack in the Pulpit here. I also have Mayflower, Mayapple. I'm also collecting from shagbark hickory and large flowered bellwort. But it's really opportunistic. If I see something that's in seed in the forest while I'm out, I'm going to grab seeds from it and just have that material of our Kahnawà's unique genetic diversity. Butternut trees are threatened by butternut canker. It's been present in Canada since 1978. It's a fungus that will get on the trees and it'll be spread by wildlife, or if there's water running off it, it'll wash the spores to other trees, and it can survive on the tree for 2 years after it dies. So it's a really slow moving disease, but it's very difficult to stop, and once a tree has it, it's almost impossible to treat. So 80% of the butternut in Ontario has been killed by this. And it's been a bit slower to come into Quebec, but we don't have too much butternut in Kahnawà. It was a traditional food source, but I don't know how many butternut we have, maybe a few hundred. And everyone that I've seen has this canker. They're alive, but they're not doing great. So, like with the black ash, we want to find that if these have genetic resilience, we can collect from them and try and regrow it. The problem also with butternut is the tree seeds aren't orthodox seeds. You can't store them forever. They have a really high water content, so you have to plant them within a few weeks of you collecting them, or they'll just rot and die off. In a related project, we've been doing buckthorn removals. We've been removing the invasive European buckthorn from the big fence. We haven't been using any pesticide methods. This has all been manual work with chainsaws and hauling the trees to the sides. They form these really dense stands which will push out native species. If a tree falls in the forest, for example, like the ash tree, a buckthorn is probably going to be in its place. So controlling that is really important. So what we do is, we cut the trees to the stump, and then we place plastic baggies on top of it. So that prevents the stump from regrowing. And of course, replanting after you're doing something like this, you're disturbing the forest a lot, is really important. So it's a good thing we have a seed program to replant things with. So collecting all these seeds, we're planning on making replanting in these areas where we control the buckthorn, and establishing a species at risk garden. So a lot of these species I'm collecting are from in the big fence where we're doing the work. So they're already adapted to this, the soil there, the unique conditions, the shade, and they'll thrive. The more riskier thing is the species at risk garden, which we're planning on establishing this coming year on Delisle Island. So this is supposed to act as a nursery, probably for more of the hardier tree species which could survive there, but since there's been shortages of native shrub species, and they're projecting that there's going to be more and more native seed shortages in the future, we want to have some sort of backup of our own of native species. So anything we're collecting, we can also plant on Delisle Island, and then use that in our restoration works. So as part of these projects, we're going to be having a couple of workshops for the community this coming year. The first is going to be an invasive species workshop in late spring. So we're going to teach people how to identify native invasive species, what they should do if they have it on their yard or in their property, what's like a specific management strategy that'll work for their area, and the actual removal techniques and how to follow up on that. Following that, we're going to be having a native plant identification workshop. This is going to be focusing on the species I've been collecting this past year, the rare or valuable species and trees. And so I want to create a network of people in the community who are trained to identify native seeds and maybe even collect them, or we could come collect it for them. But as long as we expand that network of where these species are and can collect them when they are in season, that would be really valuable for us. And I think that is all I have. Thank you very much.